Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is less than 150 days away from release. And with the hype process now in effect, everybody is making wish lists and predictions for which characters are going to be making it in the game. While obviously I have no inside information on that, I do have some ideas of which characters I think are going to be making it in. So here's my prediction list for the characters that are going to be making it in to Smash Bros. Ultimate. To start off, Sakurai did mention not to expect too many new fighters. We know that. However, we didn't get a full estimation on what exactly to expect. Personally, I feel as though Smash Ultimate is to Smash 4 what Melee was to Smash 64. Not only in gameplay, but also how the roster was developed. Both of these games were developed relatively close to each other in terms of release dates, so it focused on improving the gameplay, stages, and music rather than adding so many newcomers. If you see in Melee, there are really only 7 newcomers. But it really doesn't seem like that because there are clones that make the roster look bigger, and for the most part they are welcome additions that really do add to the game. I think the same situation is going on for Smash Ultimate, especially since Sakurai named the clones as Echo Fighters, because he knows there will be more to make the newcomer list look bigger and to overall add to the game. So I think there will be 6 brand new fighters, including Inkling and Ridley, and 4 Echo Fighters, including Daisy. So who do I think are those 6 newcomers? Who do I think are those 4 Echo Fighters? Let's find out right now. Starting off my predictions is Rex from XENOBLADE Chronicles 2 on the Nintendo Switch. For all the characters on this list, I have much evidence and reason for their inclusion, especially when it comes down to Rex. Coincidentally, Rex is my most wanted newcomer, but this is not a biased prediction, because I truly believe Rex has a great shot, and here's why. For one, Rex and PYRA are from XENOBLADE Chronicles, a game franchise that recently became an extremely popular IP for Nintendo once Shulk made his way into Smash 4. So considering the fact that XENOBLADE is one of Nintendo's very popular franchises that is fairly new, it makes a lot of sense to add in another representative from that franchise, especially since there was a brand new game added recently to that franchise. However, there is one big problem, especially according to Smash fans, that Rex, and more specifically XENOBLADE Chronicles 2, is just too recent for Sakurai to have wanted to add him in. Many fans believe greatly that Elma from XENOBLADE Chronicles X is way more likely than Rex and PYRA. This is because we recently received news that Sakurai finished his project proposal for Smash Ultimate in December of 2015. Now some say it makes sense for Sakurai to include Elma, since her game, XENOBLADE Chronicles X, released earlier that year in April, and XENOBLADE Chronicles 2 just released in December of 2017. Now these are all good arguments for Elma, and I do admit that she does have a decent chance to get in over Rex. But personally, I believe that Rex is going to be in over Elma, and here is why. I think this because Sakurai does get a lot of inside information from Nintendo on the upcoming games when he is making a Smash Bros. Game. So while it is likely that he considered Elma, personally I believe that if Sakurai knew about XENOBLADE Chronicles 2, then he would rather add in a protagonist from XENOBLADE Chronicles 2 because it would release around the same time as a new Smash game. Some might say it was too early for them to let him know about it, but it is reported that XENOBLADE Chronicles 2 started development around late 2014, and even if that is not entirely correct, they had to have at least done a good amount of work on XENOBLADE Chronicles 2 when Sakurai was doing the project proposal. This is because XENOBLADE Chronicles 2 is a huge 100-hour RPG with an open world, and there's no way they started before December of 2015 and completed the game by December of 2017. Games take a lot of time to make. Sometimes games don't get announced until they're just about to be completed. This is presumably the case for XENOBLADE Chronicles 2. The same sort of situation goes for Greninja. Sakurai made the project proposal for Smash 4 in 2012. At that time, Generation 5 was still going on, but instead of putting in Zoroark or another Gen 5 Pokemon, he chose to go ahead and find a newer character that would be closer to Smash 4's release, and he put in Greninja. So personally, I think that Sakurai would ask Nintendo, or they would let him know about XENOBLADE Chronicles 2, and he would choose the newer character since it would be closer to Smash Ultimate's release, and it would be a newer character overall. Again, Elma does have a chance, but personally, in terms of predictability, I expect to see Rex and PYRA over Elma. Rex and PYRA would be an extremely unique character, changing from PYRA to Mythra as his blade, just as Pokemon Trainer switches Pokemon. So I think with unique character traits, and with more relevance, Rex and PYRA have a pretty good shot at making it into Smash. Now on to the next one. Next up is King K. Rool, a character who has been requested since Smash Bros. Has existed. I think King K. Rool has a pretty good shot now that Sakurai is adding in pretty much the most requested characters. And of course, we all know how requested King K. Rool has been for the past 20 years. Ridley goes to show how dedicated Sakurai is to making the ultimate Smash game with the characters that the fans have really been wanting for a long time. And I think that if we really aren't going to be getting too many newcomers, this is definitely going to be one that I feel it would be at the top of his list, since he would leave such a big impact on the audience as they've been clamoring and asking for him for so long. I also think that King K. Rool has a lot of potential. He can use his weapons from his different games to differentiate himself from Bowser and the other heavy characters. He would also be another villain character that we could always use more of. We also haven't had a new Donkey Kong rep since Brawl, so I think now's the time to finally get a new one, but more on that later. Other than that, there's not really much to say about King K. Rool other than I think it's easy to predict that maybe Sakurai would finally put him in after so long and so many people asking for him. If Ridley can happen, I'm sure King K. Rool can happen. Next up is Simon Belmont. Now if you don't know who Simon Belmont is, he's one of the characters from the Castlevania series that pretty much started on the NES. Personally, I feel as though Simon Belmont fits best for this game's retro character, as since there aren't really many slots open for Smash Ultimate, the retro character would have to be unique and seem fresh, unlike Rob, who's kind of the gag character. You might not even realize Simon Belmont is a retro character because he'd feel so fresh, but he's clearly a very old character. So with this new look for Simon Belmont, he would really be a brand new character and would just be so unique. Simon has whips, a boomerang, an axe, and many different weapons from the Castlevania series that they could use from. Not to mention that it might pull in some older audiences since he's from a 1986 game, so he would definitely be one of the older characters that could bring in more people into the Smash game, and maybe video games in general. Now, I got the idea for this because a leak came out before Smash Ultimate's release stating that the title was Smash Ultimate and that the game came out on December 7th, so it could have some credibility and it includes Simon Belmont as a newcomer. So if the leak is true, which it might be, then I definitely see Nintendo revealing him last, as they don't want to give away the leak as being real even if it is. Simon has a lot to offer and could be a unique character that not many people are expecting. It would definitely be a big surprise and might even come with a new Castlevania game on the Switch. So for that, I think Simon Belmont has a pretty good shot at making it in. And for our final newcomer is by far one of the coolest Nintendo characters ever made, GENO. GENO has so much potential and he would be amazing in Smash Bros. And now I think it's finally the time to put him in. If you don't know, GENO is a character produced by Square Enix in the crossover between Square and Nintendo for their one and done Mario RPG game. It was one of the coolest games ever, and Mario RPG produced one of the coolest characters, which is the sentient doll GENO. Now if you don't know, it's rumored that Sakurai wanted GENO in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, but couldn't get the rights from Square Enix. But we all know that Cloud is in Smash 4 and Smash Ultimate. So personally, I believe that Sakurai went to go ask Square Enix for GENO, but they gave him Cloud instead. And then they gave them the Mii Fighter costume. So maybe this time around, Sakurai said, well, we'll put in Cloud, and then if there's another game, then we'll add GENO. Hopefully this is the case because I would love to see GENO, and since Square and Nintendo definitely have a better relationship than they used to, I think it's possible to have two characters from Square Enix represented in Smash, especially if one of them is GENO. It is true that there would be two Square Enix characters, but I don't think that would be too much of a problem considering that Capcom has two fighters already. We all know how fighting games used to be where you would unlock the characters, but unfortunately in the current day and age, you don't unlock the fighters anymore and they just give you the roster to start with. However, it has been confirmed that you start off with the original 8 and unlock the rest of the roster that way. So I think it would be pretty cool to unlock GENO last, and I think that that's what Sakurai is going to do since he knows that he's kind of a mysterious character that people have been asking for a long time. So hopefully GENO makes it in. Now moving on to our Echo Fighters, the first up we have is DIXIE. Now personally I'm well aware, and I'm sure Sakurai is, that DIXIE has a pretty high demand in the Smash community. However, it really doesn't make any sense to give her a complete unique moveset, since that would take a lot of time, resources, and they're not adding a lot of newcomers this time around. But she would be perfect to make her Diddy's Echo Fighter. Currently we only have 2 Donkey Kong characters, and if King K. Rool gets in, DIXIE would be a great and easy addition to satisfy the DK audience and pretty much have 2 characters for the price of 1. I am definitely 100% predicting to see DIXIE in the new Smash Ultimate game because personally I feel as though she is the most likely Echo. She has a very high demand and a very similar height and look to Diddy, so it would be an easy addition. If you look at all the Echoes, they are almost exact in height and looks to their original character. So while characters like Viridi for Palutena are unlikely because of model differences, DIXIE would have no problem. With many aspects of her character like the guitar that can make her different, but also an easy addition, I think that DIXIE is pretty likely to get in Smash Ultimate. Next up on the list for Echo Fighters is CHROM from Fire Emblem Awakening. Now I'm sure all of you know who CHROM is. He's infamous for being the one that never really got his shot in Smash 4, as we got Robin instead. Sakurai even said that he was planned, but he wanted to put Robin in because CHROM would have just been another Swords Fighter or Fire Emblem character. And I think that out of the many characters that could be Echoes, CHROM is one of the ones that really deserve it. Originally I had Shadow the Hedgehog in this spot, because of the fact that many people, including myself, thought that since Shadow was not seen at all during the demo and Knuckles was a new assist trophy, that maybe he would be Sonic's Echo Fighter. But I really don't think that Sonic is going to be getting any new fighters from his series. Even if it's an Echo Fighter, I still don't think Sakurai would take away another opportunity for an original Nintendo fighter to have another Sonic character. Perhaps maybe a different Sega character, but not another character from the same third-party game. I still think we're going to be getting 4 Echo Fighters, and one of them I think is definitely going to be CHROM. CHROM would be an Echo Fighter of Ike, and I think he really deserves it since he's pretty much the new face of Fire Emblem ever since Fire Emblem Awakening, the revival of the Fire Emblem series. We have to remember that although Echo Fighters open the door to many new characters, the characters in Smash Bros. Still have to mean something. They have to represent a certain game or era, and I think that the character that represents the revitalization of one of Nintendo's biggest gaming icons right now is CHROM, representing the revival of Fire Emblem. So I think that he would be a really good addition and a welcome addition to the Smash Bros. Roster. In comparison to characters like Shadow and Dry Bowser, unfortunately they don't really represent any big part of Nintendo history, which is pretty much the whole reason why Smash Bros. Exists, to celebrate the Nintendo series. So I think that CHROM representing this big part of Nintendo's life where they brought back such a huge franchise definitely means something and deserves a spot in Smash. Not to mention that Fire Emblem Three Houses is very far from release, and I would be shocked to see the main character from that game be in Smash. Personally, I think that we won't get any new Fire Emblem, or maybe not even a new Pokemon character in the base roster, so I think that CHROM would be a pretty good compensation for that. With that in mind, I think CHROM would make a pretty good Echo Fighter for Smash Ultimate. It might have been skipped out on a Smash 4, but you'll get your chance this time. And finally, for our last prediction and our last Echo Fighter, we have NINTEN from the original Mother game. Now, if you don't know who this character is and you're wondering why I'm calling Ness NINTEN, well, this is actually a different character from Ness, and the reason why I think this will work so well is because this would be the final character to represent all 3 Mother games, as NINTEN is from the very first Mother game. I know that NINTEN looks exactly like Ness, but that's pretty much the whole point. I think that adding Ninten would be a great way to call back to Nintendo's history and to actually represent all 3 Mother games, since we know we're probably not going to get a new one anytime soon. As a huge fan of all the Earthbound characters, I would really love to see Ninten come in and see how he can change up Ness's moveset. You might say we don't need an Echo Fighter for Ness because we already have a semi-clone of Ness with Lucas, but the same kind of thing goes on with Marth. Marth has Roy, who is a semi-clone of Marth, but we also have Lucina, who is an Echo Fighter of Marth. So I think that if the series is strong enough, which Mother definitely is, we could have a 3rd representative to represent all 3 games. As with all characters, including the Echo Fighters, they have to mean something to Nintendo history, and Ninten definitely does. I think that he would be a great addition to the Smash roster. And finally, this is what I think the Smash Bros. Ultimate roster is going to look like. I'm pretty proud and confident of the characters that I chose here, and maybe one of them, at least one, is going to make it in the final game. Hopefully, other than the ones obviously already confirmed. For a quick recap, we have Inkling, Ridley, Rex, King K. Rool, Simon Belmont, GENO, Daisy, Dixie Kong, CHROM, and NINTEN. Keep in mind that this list is all for fun, and that I obviously have no inside information at Nintendo, so if your favorite character is not on the list, then don't worry, because there's always a chance that they can get it. Who am I to say? Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. I put a lot of work into this video. It turned out way longer than expected, so if you would leave a like and maybe subscribe, that would totally be awesome. Other than that, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.